1, a 2, a 1.
It's time for the Better Horses Radio Show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
Welcome to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And you know, we are the team, and we are excited because we get to talk all about the equine industry and what it's all involved. And we got a great show coming up to you. And you know what, Merle, thank you for joining me on another week.
Thanks for having me back again.
You know what's interesting is because we're coming right out of winter, going into summer. A lot of people don't really appreciate what barn hosting, boarding barns go through. And I think, you know what I stress out more than anything else?
I know what I do, but let's see if it's the same. I would say the barn doors, like
Yes.
if it's open or shut or too much or too little or, yeah.
I don't think people appreciate enough of the manure that we have to spread every year. I mean, we are building mountains out there. And I just finished out getting, and it's not too early. So it's not too early for vaccinations, deworming, and not too early for spreading manure. And I got to tell you, we have 21 horses in our barn. And just so that you know statistics for everybody who's driving and don't have to get your calculator out, but 40 pounds of manure is put out every day for horses. I have 21 horses. I was doing some calculations, Merle, and that's 840 pounds times 182 days because I spread every 6 months. I'm literally putting out 152,880 pounds or 76 tons of manure every day. I don't think people appreciate exactly how much pasture management you have to go through.
Oh, it's, I think we all have the manure pile and we all pile it up for most of us and we do spread it or, occasionally you can get somebody that'll take some, sometimes the nurseries or, garden centers or something will come out and want to get some, but it is a surprisingly big issue, and you don't think about it until all of a sudden you look out one day and you're like, wow, I got to do something with that pile.
It's great compost if you keep turning it around. But I got to tell you, let's get right into the show because we got a lot of great things coming your way. And just before we get started, we have Joe Eddy. He's a member of the Missouri Quarter Horse Association. I'm really excited to talk to this guy because, Merle, he's done it all. He's with the Missouri Horse Council. He's with the Quarter Horse Association. He's also now a board member at the Missouri State Fair Foundation, and a lot of exciting things happening with these type of associations.
Well, and Ed, our next segment is Lynn Martin. She's an equine veterinarian and a teacher professor with the University of Missouri College of Veterinary Medicine. She's going to be coming to us and talking about foaling.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. And let's get our sages of the business. Mark Gratney, he's a quarter horse professional trainer and breeder, and he's a member of the AQHA and the NRHA, and he has some great tips for us as far as training for horses. Looking forward to coming him on board. And with that in mind, we're going to keep our cattle segment going with our guy who's been sitting patiently over there in Studio B. Hey, Mark, thanks for being patient. Let's throw it over to our better cattle guy, Mark Alpold. Mark, I think things are warming up a little bit.
Well, Ed, next week about this time we'll be ushering in the first day of spring, and weather certainly feeling that way. That did lead me to some thoughts here leading off. We did spring forward this past weekend, and some thoughts here about daylight savings. Like it or not, most Americans in all states did make the time change. Arizona and Hawaii are the exceptions here. A little bit of history. It shows Benjamin Franklin actually first suggested the whole concept of daylight saving time here, or extending daylight later into the evening. But it was really Germany who first actually implemented it during World War I. The U.S. would follow just a couple of years later during the World War. Congress, though, abolished it after the war ended. So from then until 1966, really, states and municipalities, for that matter, could choose daylight time or standard time. You think things like the airline industry, truckers, railroads, transportation in general, and others had inconsistency, added cost, and delays, really. So in 1966, President Johnson signed the Uniform Time Act. Some our viewers and listeners might say, I wish we could just make it permanent one way or the other. Well, you know what? As recent as 2022, the U.S. Senate passed a law to make daylight savings year-round. But it would be that way today, except we're looking back, the bill never passed in the House. But there is some rumblings about making it permanent one way or the other, so we haven't heard the end of that, I don't believe. Well, look at the cattle market here. The seasonal tendency is for futures to feeder cattle to really move lower on a trend from now to really Memorial Day. Unemployment numbers remain a real key here as it relates to consumer demand. Unemployment ticked up just a little bit in February, and we think even though just about 0.1%, it certainly can make a difference as far as meat demand is concerned. Prices for feeders remain high relative to break-evens. Futures trying to help out here. April live cattle exceeded that $200 level last week. More buyers at the time wanting to move in, and they did. But we'll make 205, 207 the next step up to get there and hold that level for April live cattle. Now, as far as feeder cattle are concerned, best thing we can do there is that it went above the 278 level again last week, looking for some follow-through at the early week here. So watching that 283, 284 level sounds a little ways away, but that would be the next if this bull market, if you will, would continue from here. So hope that's helpful to folks as we move through this last week of winter. We hope we can say goodbye, and this time next week, say hello to spring. But as always, wishing everyone a profitable week ahead.
And thank you, Mark. And now rolling right into the Better Horses Horse Tip of the Week with Carmela Ebel.
Hey everyone, so if you've just bought your first horse or maybe you're planning to get one soon, this is for you. I'm going to be sharing some helpful tips for new horse owners today. Real quick, if you have yet to start looking for your first horse, there's a few tips I'd like to cover that will help you find the best horse for you. So when you start looking for your first horse, it can be really overwhelming just because you may find a lot of different horses out there. So it's important to know exactly what to look for in a horse that will best suit you. So one of the first tips I want to share is look for a horse that will fit you in size and also one that you can grow into if you're not done growing yet. So Tucker here, he's a little on the short side. He is 13.1 hands high. I got him when I was done growing, so I'm about 5'3", and I knew that I could ride ponies a lot, and so Tucker happened to be perfect for me. He's also kind of more stocky than a lot of other ponies, so I knew that his size would be a good fit for me personally. So another thing to think about before you go and purchase a horse is what your long-term riding goals are and what disciplines you want to do. So you want to pick a horse that will help you meet those riding goals. For me, personally, I actually didn't have any real goal when I got Tucker. I just got him because I wanted a project pony to work with, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with him afterward. But over the long grand scheme of things, he's turned out to be a great pony for me. I can just do about everything with him, so it works out well. So when you're going to look at a horse or going to ride a horse and try it out, I highly recommend you take along an experienced horse person, especially if you have an instructor or someone who's kind of been guiding you through your riding and helping you improve. Taking this person along can help you get a second opinion, and they can give you feedback as to whether they think that this is a good horse for you and whether you're a good fit or not. Before you bring your horse home or before you even go to start looking at horses, one tip is to go and tour boarding stables if you don't plan to keep your horse on your own property. When you're looking at boarding stables to keep your horse at, you want to make sure that it has the facilities you want to use and also like the living arrangements you want your horse to have. So one thing that was important to me is that there would be a pasture where Tucker could be turned out 24/7. I like to keep him outside just because it's the most natural thing for a horse. I also wanted a barn that had a lot of riding trails because we love trail riding, and also just a nice arena where we could work and play and maybe jump if we wanted to. Really something that had the versatility that I wanted. Another thing you're going to have to look for in a boarding stable is something that meets your budget. Some boarding stables are obviously going to be way more expensive than others, or there's also certain boarding packages that may be more expensive. So keeping your horse in a stall may be more expensive than keeping your horse out in a pasture. One thing that I've learned when it comes to getting a new horse or even just moving your horse to a new stable is it's a good idea to give them plenty of time to get used to their new surroundings. For me, this looks like giving the horse maybe a week to adjust, and in this week I'm not riding them. I don't have any expectations for them to do anything. I'm just letting them get used to their surroundings and maybe the new horses in their field, and also just being around me in general. Traveling and moving can be very stressful for horses. First of all, they're usually being taken away from their other horse friends that they've gotten to know and that were in their herd, and now they're being put into a new herd, which is totally different for them. And so they're having to meet all these new horses and establish themselves in the pecking order of the field now. And so that in and of itself can be very overwhelming to them. Travel can be very taxing on a horse's body, and they're known to lose a lot of their body weight over traveling periods. When I moved Tucker here, we actually moved across the country. And so he spent about 3 days in the trailer, which is a very long time. So I definitely gave him time to just readjust and relax in his new surroundings. It took him about 3 months to adjust. I noticed just his behavior was different and he had lost a lot of his muscle. So over the course of 3 months, he was able to adjust and gain back that muscle. So that just shows you the stress and the physical toll that travel can take on a horse and even just moving stables. So that's something to be mindful of. Being able to properly care for your horse is one of the biggest things you should know before you go and get your first horse.
Thank you, Carmela. And now let's get to our show. Hey, Merle, excited to have this show rolling, and we're going to have everybody stay with us. We do nothing but talking about the equine industry. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Now's the time to prepare for the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 14-day event begins June 7th, starting with our youth weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hey, it's Alex Gold from Max Motors in Belton with their huge year-end heavy-duty sale. Every new 2024 Ram 2500 in stock is 20% off MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee up to $13,000 off MSRP. Stock number S240367. Must finance with dealer lender. Offer expires 1/2/25. And if you're looking for the max trade-in values in the Midwest, it's Max Motors, just a short drive to Belton. Max Motors, the easiest place to buy a car, maxmotors.com.
And welcome back to Better Horses. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And Merle, you know what? I'm excited about this next guy that we have coming on board. His name is Joe Eddy. And before we get him on board, I want to let everybody know that this segment is brought to you by the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. And if you haven't heard about him, check him out at vet.kstate.edu. So, Merle, we get into a lot of associations, and we get to, nonprofit organizations and mostly horse associations that we get to be involved with. But Joe Eddy is coming on board, and he is a founding member of the Missouri Horse Council that started back in 2017. He's also with the Missouri Quarter Horse Association, which is affiliated with the American Horse Council. And he's also studied at the Agricultural Economics at the University of Missouri. He loves to ride. He loves to compete. We're going to talk all about horses, and he's going to answer the question, how much do you want to give back to your passion project and how important these councils are? I'd like to welcome aboard Joe Eddy. Joe, welcome to Better Horses.
Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Merle.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming on board, and just to help everybody understand. And first of all, congratulations on putting together the Missouri Horse Council, and it's still going very strong. But what is a statewide horse council? What's their passion? What are they designed to do?
Well, it's a great question, Ed. A lot of states in across the United States have horse councils or equine councils. Some states call them, and kind of a common theme coming through those is to show strength in numbers, to have one voice for the equine industry in that state. And we saw a void for that in the state of Missouri. And so around, I would say 2014, 2015, I was serving as the president of the Missouri Quarter Horse Association, and had a really good conversation with Missouri Farm Bureau. And their thought was, hey, there are organizations for all the other livestock and commodity organizations, but there is really not a statewide organization for equine enthusiasts and equine business owners. So it was really just a chance to bring lots of different organizations together to have one voice to be able to respond to threats, but also respond to opportunities in the equine community.
There are 43 states that are currently participating in horse councils, and that rolls up to the American Horse Council. And this is a trade organization out of Washington, D.C. that represents the horse industry, all nonprofit. And what is exactly the coalition of state horse councils forming in 1970? That's what they did. So is this important for the industry itself to keep a directly baseline theme on what we want to do with horses throughout the United States?
I think it's extremely important. You think about legislation that might pop up and that might really directly impact your business as a horseman, or your passion as a horseman. There's really, without an infrastructure like a horse council, there's not a great way to get everybody together and have a unified voice to respond to that, the way that some people on the other side of those issues might be.
And how much time does that take? Obviously, these are 501(c)(3)s that are put together. These are nonprofit organizations. Do you have to be qualified in any way to get on these associations? Now, Joe, I'm going to dive into you for just a minute. You're a heavy competitor as far as the Missouri Quarter Horse Association. Your family's involved into it. Is there a prerequisite of any kind to get involved into these type of associations?
So the way that we set up Missouri Horse Council was that it's an association of associations. So our members are not individuals. They are horse organizations or horse businesses. So, for example, I represent the Missouri Quarter Horse Association on the Missouri Horse Council. The way that works is by having individual associations be members, and we're all elected by a group of people to represent that group at the Horse Council. So I would say, are there prerequisites? Yeah, you have to get along with the people in your association, but we are a welcoming group, and we're all working toward some common goals.
Well, and Joe, I know it's very much on the forefront of everybody's thoughts, especially show managers and judges and exhibitors, about this Horse Protection Act. Can you give us any insight to that, and how maybe your organization has responded, and what can we do?
Boy, that's a loaded question, bro. I'll say this. I may not know more than anyone else out there about the Horse Protection Act, but it is, in my opinion, it could be very detrimental to our industry. A lot of our organizations that are part of the Missouri Horse Council put on horse shows, put on horse sales, horse events. I mean, I think most of us that are deeply involved in horses like to do things with our horses. And so anytime you've got more regulation, more oversight, maybe overreach, maybe the better word, that poses a threat. I don't think there's any, or I shouldn't say any, I think it's a very, very large majority of horse owners are deeply concerned about the welfare of their animals. I mean, the amount of money that we spend dictates that we be concerned about the welfare of our animals. And so it seems like things like the Horse Protection Act are, if I say overreaching there, because it's going after the very small percentage of folks that may be doing the wrong thing and put an undue burden on those of us that are doing the right thing. So I would say there was a 60-day, what I would say the facts that I know, there's a 60-day reprieve or suspension of these rules that were supposed to take place at the end of February. That would be up at the end of April. As of this point, I don't know. I know there are some investigations. There's some talk. There's a lot going on in Washington and among a number of groups like the American Horse Council, Western Justice, and some others that are, and the American Quarter Horse Association, to try to learn more about what those regulations will ultimately look like, who will bear the cost of those regulations, and whether they're all actually necessary. So I'm hopeful for some clarification. I'm hopeful for possibly further time before this is implemented so we can fully understand it. So it felt like it was a little bit sprung on us as an industry.
You mentioned we spend a lot of money on our horses. The American Horse Council put together the economic impact study, and we have a $177 billion industry, and that is up from $122 billion from 2017. So it tells you how much more we're spending on horses now than we ever have been. And it's currently employing over 2.2 million jobs. And that's from the American Horse Council that just put out that survey. So Joe, to your point, yes, we're spending a lot of time and energy into these horses, and so are universities and things of that sort. All right, so before we let you go, or before we talk about it, I want to let you know that Joe's daughter is Abby Eby, and she is also an equestrian. She's gone to Auburn University Equestrian Center. Actually, she went there, and little do we know that she's on the Auburn equestrian team. I hope I'm not misstating this, but that's also a 6-time national championship team that's put out there. Joe, from somebody who does, we all get into kids and we all have sports like football, basketball, and we all get into, very few people are going into the equestrian teams. But can you describe, as a father, what it's like to have your kids actually join the equestrian teams, not only just Auburn, but everywhere around the country?
Well, we're learning about that as we go. Abby's a freshman this year, and she's a member of that team competing in horsemanship. And she's also working with the reining group a little bit as well. That's just a whole new world. That's we're used to taking our own horses, competing on our own horses, and Abby, for years, as you work with kids and even yourself, you're trying to create a really good connection with that horse and show off just how well you can communicate in almost imperceptible ways. The equestrian event at college is different than that, because when you show up and draw a horse, you have 4 minutes to get to know that horse, and then you go compete. And so it is very much a catch ride type situation. So you're learning how to maybe not get in a fight with a horse versus maybe communicating imperceptibly. It's been fun. Abby's home for spring break, and we were at Jim Dudley's house yesterday riding a bunch of different horses, and we were having some fun just learning. She was practicing that. Hop on one for 4 minutes and go run a pattern and see how it goes. And most of the time, I'll say those horsemanship patterns are without stirrups. So it's
oh my.
Even a little more different. But I'm proud of both my kids. Abby's actually currently the president of the American Quarter Horse Youth Association, and her brother served as that a few years ago. There's a neat article about her in the Quarter Horse Journal this month. So that's my proud dad plug of the podcast.
And before we let you go, we want to talk about the Missouri State Fair Foundation that's putting together literally a beautiful equestrian center. Just broke ground. Congratulations. I know you're a part on the board over there. And we also have the American Royal on the Kansas side that's putting together a big equestrian center out there. What is it like, and what does the states have to do to prepare themselves for something to this magnitude? And we're talking about a $50 million equestrian center that's being built out there with limited amount of time to get it done.
Yeah, you're talking 50 million in the first phase and proposed 55 million for phase two, currently working its way through the legislature right now. So that's a lot of money. It's surprising, how quick you can use up millions of dollars in a project like this. Very exciting times to catch those horse trailers that you keep seeing going right through Missouri. Keep them right here in those economic dollars right here in the state of Missouri.
I think that's ultimately the goal. Hey, Joe, I want to thank you for joining Better Horses. We'd love to have you come back. We want to talk more about what's going on with the associations, and I want to keep these horse councils going, and I think they're very important. So I appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both.
All right, Merle. Well, I tell you what, I want everyone to stay with us. We're going to have more exciting equine information coming your way as we listen to Dr. Lynn Martin, a veterinarian at the Missouri State Veterinarian Services. We'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Better Horses. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And Merle, we get to talk all about the care and custody of horses. But first, we got to give a little plug to a very exciting event called the Pinto World Championship Show.
Ed, it's coming up in June. It's too early to get your entries in. You can start looking at the schedule. The schedule is up and out. So it's always a lot of fun. And the Yellow Rose Futurity is going to be there again this year. So that's always kind of neat.
Check them out at pinto.org. It's a championship June 7th through the 21st. And coming on board, we have from the University of Missouri College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Lynn Martin. And she's an equine veterinarian, and she's also, Merle, a teaching professor there at the university. And we're very excited to have her come on board. We're going to talk all about the care and custody of horses. And I'd like to welcome Lynn Martin to Better Horses. Lynn, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
So you were with us before, and we just ran out of time, and I promised our listeners that we're going to have you back, and I'm excited that you're coming back. So let's get into some of the questions we didn't get to last time. And one of the things is we're talking about technology and out in the field. I have noticed more and more when people have a colic situation or if they have any type of injuries, they're doing more of the taking the picture, sending it to the veterinarian, and you're almost diagnosing it right there. Are you seeing a lot of that, or are you still getting out in the field as much as you can?
So I think that you're absolutely right. Technology has advanced what we can do with our communications with our clients and not be present always in the field. I'm primarily within the equine hospital here at the University of Missouri, so I'm not personally out in the field with our ambulatory service. But if we have an established veterinary client-patient relationship, those are a lot of things we do. We get text messages of pictures. We've educated our clients to be able to take heart rates, respiratory rates, look at color of their mucous membranes, things like that. And that really helps give us a little bit of an idea, having that information before we get there, what we're getting ourselves into.
No, so we talked about going into the show is that you guys are swamped out there. And I asked you, I said, what's your biggest challenges? What is everybody coming to you now in this part of the year? And what seems to be the biggest culprit?
Yeah, so some of the biggest things right now are our foals. We've got a lot of intensive neonatal care situations, mares with retained fetal membranes, or maybe, especially in this area, fescue toxicosis, colics. So we have a lot of colic surgeries, lameness exams. As you mentioned earlier, everybody's getting into the show season. So we're starting to see some of that wear and tear stuff come up as well.
And Lynn, I think a lot of the demand or the need for the technology is arriving because there's a lack of large animal veterinarians. I think we've heard about it coming, but right now I think veterinarians are trying to classify their their problems or the situations. Is this immediate or can this wait 2 or 3 days? Is that kind of what you all think is spurring it, or why do you think we've seen the increase of demand?
You're absolutely right. Our demand for vets has increased kind of in line with what you guys mentioned earlier, in that people are really getting back into horses. We're seeing more horses, more breeding, more showing, and there is a big discussion in the veterinary world about the shortage of veterinarians, and those especially in rural areas. Equine practice, I think the American Association of Equine Practitioners, they've had great initiatives in trying to address these issues. And part of that is educating our students as they come through veterinary school about what the realities and demands of equine practice is, and also being really good and improving their ability to set their boundaries for when they take call, and are we going to collaborate with our referral centers and things of that nature. We, at least at the University of Missouri, I see a lot of students that do have equine interests. I think it's on par with other places as well, and I certainly try to encourage them to come to equine. I've had some converts in the past.
So that brings a very good point. When I'm a student and I want to be a veterinarian, so large animal or small animal, what's the challenge there when they start off as an equine vet and then they switch gears? Why do they switch gears, and what can we do to start migrating and literally recruiting more veterinarians in this field?
I think that the people who go into equine vet practice get worn out, right? We have in the equine world, our relationship between trainers and owners and the veterinarian is very close. It's different sometimes than the small animal realm. And some people really get set on one vet. And part of what we do as veterinarians is try and build a practice where we all are working together, and when an emergency comes up, if someone's favorite vet is not available, having that client be willing and to get one of our associates to come out and be comfortable with that. Also being comfortable with referral situations, sending off to a specialty hospital and building those relationships. People who go into equine and move away from equine, like I said, it's a little bit of possible burnout, being overworked. Veterinarians by nature are well known for being very compassionate and always wanting to be there for the clients. And honestly, it is to our detriment. It really is. And it just comes from having a big heart and, always wanting to be there, but we got to draw some lines as well.
Susie would call that compassion fatigue.
I agree. It is.
Everybody, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Lynn Martin, the equine specialist. She's a veterinarian at the University of Missouri College of Veterinary Medicine. But we're going to take a break for just a minute and hear a word from our sponsors. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages.
Now's the time to prepare for the world's largest horse show, the Pinto World Championship. This 14-day event begins June 7th, starting with our youth weekend through June 22nd, and caters to all riding levels and ages. With over $1 million in cash and prizes, there are no qualifications required to enter. Held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Pinto World Championship caters to all types of equines. With over 700 classes, the Pinto Show welcomes a variety of breeds. It's a family environment with healthy competition. For more information, check out pintoworld.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
At Heritage Tractor, we're driven by more than just the nuts and bolts of our John Deere tractors. We're fueled by a commitment to you. It's about tracking down that elusive part, providing industry-leading equipment that won't break the bank, and ensuring your equipment is up and running. Because your livelihood depends on it, our livelihood depends on it. The three little words we live by, here for you, aren't just words, they're a promise. Heritage Tractor, here for you, here for a lifetime.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
Welcome back to Better Horses. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo. Ed, you know, our next guest is a longtime horseman, and I know several of them already know him. But Mark Gratney is a professional trainer and breeder dedicated to producing top quality AQHA and NRHA horses. He's got a passion for developing well-rounded, talented horses. So with that, Mark, welcome to Better Horses.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
You know, Merle, just to let you know, the last time we had Mark was on our TV show, which was 5 years ago, with my partner and co-host, Ernie Rodina. So Mark has been doing this for a very long time. Mark, the first question out of the box, you've been training reining and ranch riding. How has this training techniques changed throughout the last 20 years?
Probably because we've had so much better horses. The quality of the horses has improved dramatically. And the change into the ranch riding, which started, I think 2012, we introduced the ranch riding to the quarter horse industry. And it really increased the quality of the horses, the way the horses move, and kind of filled the gap of a lot of people that were disgruntled with the pleasure type horses. Those are some of the changes that I've seen.
Of course, here at Better Horses, we like the Better Horses reference, Mark. But, you know, how have you seen, like, for me, it's really evolved. I mean, like, especially the last 5 years. Have you seen certain blood types or blood lines that you like that are making better ranch horses? They're not just necessarily reining horses, or is it mostly reining horses?
Yeah, I think what you'll find now is a lot of the ranch horses that are kind of reiners that didn't make it or didn't make the top, 10% of the reining horses industry, but yet they're really broke, nice bred horses. What you're seeing, you got to kind of be careful that you don't get too much cow in them. The cow horse line of horses are just too looky. They're they're out there looking for a cow all the time, and they don't have that consistent, smooth move that you're looking for. We'd really like to watch the horses. I mean, everybody can do the obstacles now. It just takes repetition to do the trail obstacles and the ranch work. And so now we're looking at the quality of how the horses move. And so that's really come up in the eyes of the judges.
So to give everybody a perspective here, we mentioned at the beginning of our show, we had 6.4 million horses out in the country today. The quarter horses breed takes the first slot at 2 million, and it's growing with thoroughbreds coming in at 1 million. And that's a lot of the horse racing going on there. With quarter horses breed growing, you're also in the breeding program. How has the discipline changed from, you mentioned ranch riding, moving is the obvious thing everybody's looking for. So tell us about your breeding program.
Okay, we've mainly bred the cow, Rue 52 is a stud that we basically depended on, and the Smart Ciccolina horses. Both of those are kind of cow bred, but they're also very pretty horses that have been used in the reining, and they're excellent movers. And so we've gone along those lines for our horses. At this time, we've really backed off of our breeding program. We don't stand as many studs as we used to, and we've cut back on the mares mainly because of my ability to slow down. And so I really cut back on that part of it.
Yeah. So, Mark, you mentioned bloodlines, and I think that's a really important part to evaluating a ranch horse prospect or a reiner. But then what else do you look for when you're evaluating, let's say, a yearling, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old that's a Greenbroke horse? What do you look for if you're looking for a ranch horse prospect?
Probably I don't necessarily go looking for specific bloodlines as much as I go looking for a horse that's correct, a horse that's got some movement to him, maybe a horse with a little color to him that stands out, maybe a blaze or some socks, something that is kind of an eye catcher that draws your attention away from some of the other horses in the class. I go for that as much as I do for the bloodlines. I just know certain bloodlines that I've raised are really good movers, and so I'll lean towards them. But if I'm going out of my breeding deal and start looking for horses, there are some bloodlines that I stay away from, the impressives and stuff like that. But you want to have a horse that's really good-minded, and you can't always tell that when they're yearlings. I kind of beat around the bush, but that's what I try to do.
No, that was good. One of the questions that we do have one of our listeners wanting to know is, she's been in the Western Pleasure category in a long time. And, you talked about movement in this interview. In the Western Pleasure, they don't move very well. They keep that head very low on a lope. And that transition in categories as far as natural horsemanship, give me your thoughts on that versus ranch riding.
Well, I think the ranch riders are more of the natural way of the horses actually wanting to go, whereas the pleasure horses, that's what I got frustrated many, many years ago with the pleasure, is that the artificial movement, trying to make them go so slow, carry their head a certain way, and do a lot of artificial stuff to that horse. Now, they've bred up their horses to move like that, just like we've bred up the reiners to be great sliding horses. And so, yes, there are some good pleasure horses that are really fancy movers, but they just move different than we do for ranch work.
So with that said, it's a hard transition from going to the pleasure class into the ranch riding class. Not impossible, agreed with you, but you say it would be a challenge.
Yes, there's very few horses that can do that.
Okay, and Mark, it wouldn't be a segment without you talking a little bit about your daughter and son-in-law. I know them very well there at Heartland Equine Hospital. Can you tell us about both Dr. Carlsons?
Yes, both of them are very ambitious people. I can't keep up with them, but we're thankful we have them in the family. Kelly, of course, followed in her mother's footsteps. Her mother was a veterinarian and met her husband at K-State. And then they've gone on and gone to Rude Griddle and got further education in horses. And Eric Carlson has majored in doing surgery, and Kelly is primarily does the medicine work. And we can't keep up with them. They're so busy now. They've done a very good job of keeping their clinic going.
And we just had Lynn Martin on talking about the need for veterinarians. It must be nice to be able to have all those veterinarians on call for you.
Sometimes it's like being an automotive mechanic. You don't always get things fixed like you'd like to, but they are available. So
they are available. And I know you had a daughter, Maggie, that shows competitively or has shown competitively there before. And then we'll talk about moving horses and some of the biggest issues you see when you're training that are the biggest mistakes or something that really frustrates you out there that you wish everybody would know.
I think some of the things that really frustrate me sometimes is some people just don't get paired up with the right horse, so that it makes life a little more pleasant for them. They need to recognize, people sell horses, people go to sales and buy horses, but it's not matching them up with the horse a lot of times. And so they come home with a horse that has a bad habit or is not the right kind of a movement, that you'll never make them move the right way to do, let's say, the ranch classes or the reining. And it just makes it really frustrating. They've spent a lot of money buying this horse, and then here you are telling them it's not going to work. And that's one part of the business that's really kind of frustrating sometimes. I love helping non-pros or amateur riders learn more about training their horse and keeping their horse in shape and keeping their horse tuned up so that they can do it and even keep their horse at home and keep them trained up instead of having to keep them at a trainer all the time.
I think that's more key than anything else is train the trainers, but also train people to train properly with these majestic animals that we deal with every day. I think that's really good. Mark, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you joining our show, but more importantly, we want to thank you for all the years of dedication that you've put into this equine industry, but more importantly, your family has put into this equine industry. So that has been much appreciated, and we don't say that enough.
Thank you very much.
So we appreciate you coming. And if they wanted to get a hold of you on Facebook, I think you still have your Facebook page at Mark Gratney Quarter Horses, professional trainer, reining and ranch riding. So Mark, they can check you out there. And more importantly, if they wanted to see more quarter horses, can they still give you a shout on your Facebook page?
You bet. We've still got some around here.
I always enjoy talking to the sages of our industry with Mark Gratney.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. And, a little known fact, or maybe you know it, is his daughter is Dr. Kelly Carlson. So they're at Heartland Equine Hospital.
Just a whole legacy of equine talent that we're just putting on the radio. Hey, listen, if you had a chance and you missed the show or you want to hear the show again and you're driving and you're doing your chores or riding horses, I want to invite everyone to listen to Better Horses Radio on our podcast, now available on Apple, Spotify, Foxfire, Chrome, Echo. And you know what, Merle? We're even available on the YouTube podcast.
And Ed, if you haven't seen it already, the new edition of the newspaper is out, and you'll be sure to know it because it's got fully furnished on the front. It's a really neat deal, so you don't want to miss it. It's full of great tips and tricks for horses and riders alike.
And you know what? It comes out 4 times a year. If you want to subscribe to it, check out betterhorses.com and just hit subscription, and you'll be able to get it into your mailbox. And you know what, Merle? We also have our Better Horses TV, also airing on RFD, the Cowboy Channel, and streaming on Equus TV. Also see it on your YouTube channel if you missed it on any of these TV stations locally to you.
Ed, before we go, I'd like to give our special thanks to the team behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, our television producer, Kelly Creech, and of course, all of our great sponsors.
Yeah, they do such a marvelous job, and we'd like to thank you, our listeners. Well, Merle, hey, you know what? That wraps it up for this week, and it was a great show, and I want to thank all of you good buckaroos and buckarettes. You know what? Mind your mom and dads out there. Be brave, but don't take any chances. And until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.